this episode of Got 5 for Google, we're going to take a look at some new features available in Google Forms. Some of these will add additional functionality, others will just make your forms look nicer. So let's start with the functionality. So under the form settings, this is the very top of your form, you're going to see that you have some new choices. One of them is shuffle the question order. So what this will do is, right now we have these questions, they're in this particular order. When we go to the live form, they can actually be shuffled or changed around. Why you would want to do this, if you were giving an assessment with a Google form and you didn't want students sitting next to each other having the exact same questions in the exact same order, you could choose that and it's just going to shuffle those around. Now, one thing to kind of take note of is right now you'll see first and last name are my first two questions. So if I come to this, my live form, you can see here they're shuffled around a little bit. Just know that that is going to happen. All this information will still feed back all into a spreadsheet, all organized, even though the questions are kind of mixed up. So as much as you have, your name question is normally first, it may not be this time. And when I refresh this here, because again we're shuffling, it just randomizes everything. So in this case, last name and then first name are my first two questions. So it is just going to kind of mix those around. And if you're wondering why I have two separate name questions, I like to do this because when I get the information into the spreadsheet, I can sort by last name and then I have my students in alphabetical order. So that is one of the new features. Another one of the new features is only allow one response per person. Now, to do this, students are going to have to sign in with their Google account. So if you're wanting to collect information from a parent or something like that, you could select this option, but then parents would have to sign in with a Google account. It doesn't have to be, they don't have a school one. So if they don't have a Google account, they wouldn't be able to fill out your form. But in the case of, again, students taking an assessment, we only want them taking it one time, or if you're soliciting feedback from a group and you only want one response per person, you would go ahead and select that option. And normally if I'm going to go ahead and do this, I'm going to go ahead and select these other two. That way I am collecting that username. In that way, at least I know exactly who that is. If I'm doing a student assessment, I'm definitely going to do that. If I was getting some sort of like staff feedback, I would, and we want it to be anonymous, I'd go ahead and uncheck that box right there. It's still going to require them to log in because you're doing the allow one response per person, but this will keep it anonymous. And so if you want to see what happens when someone tries to go to it a second time, they're going to get this message basically saying you've already filled this out, you cannot fill it out again. So those are new features up in the form settings. The other new features we want to show you are down in some of the question types. And they're the question types where you have selections or choices. So in this case, I have a multiple choice and I have a checkbox. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this question here, and I'm going to go into the advanced settings. And now I have a shuffle option order. So before we were shuffling questions, now we're just shuffling the answers. And again, this is to randomize things, make it a little bit harder for somebody to cheat. So if I go ahead and shuffle this right here, it's going to go ahead and refresh here. There we go. My questions have shuffled up from the last time, and my answers have shuffled up because I have both of those selected. So again, a way to kind of randomize your test and make it a little harder to cheat, I guess, something like that. So those are the added functionality, basically qualities or traits that have been added to Google Forms. So now let's take a look at the fun stuff. How can you make your Google form look nicer? So we're going to go to the Change Theme button, and now you're going to notice you have a lot more themes to choose from. Before, you were really limited in your themes. So if I can have ones that are already pre-made, which is fine, but I can also, if I go ahead, I can customize any of these. And so when I customize them, I can customize the header image. So if I want to put in my own image, I can go to the upload. I have other images I can put in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and just select this one. I can adjust the title here once that gets through here. So I can adjust the font, I can adjust the color, those types of things. Again, I've got options for my header here, the description. I can adjust the font on that. So those font choices that you really didn't have before, you definitely have now. If I want to adjust the font on my questions. So really what you're seeing is you're seeing lots of other options. We have help desk options. We have, just, again, I want my answers to be in a different font, I could do that. I can go to my form background. So if I want this to be just a certain color, I can just pick a color like that. And if I go to page background and scroll all the way down here, I can actually change an image that would be there. So I could upload my own. Maybe I have something already saved in my Google Drive. So I've got some pictures right here. I'm just going to pick this one. And now it's going to go ahead and add that in. As soon as it uploads, it'll be ready to go. And so now I kind of have my cloudy background. So these are ways that you can really adjust these forms to make them look any way you want and make them a little bit more personable. So those are a few new features on Google Forms. Check them out today and get more functionality and a little more prettiness out of your forms.